845-1100 is the number to call, and we've got callers, so let's go right to the phone calls this morning. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, Tom, this is Rick. Yeah, I agree with that last caller. It's time for Mervan to go. He's got to go.
Well, I think a lot of people have some real issues with him, and whether the question is whether people will cross lines and vote Republican. I don't believe you're going to see anybody in the primary go up against him. No viable candidate, but I think you're going to see a couple of viable candidates running on the Republican side. You already have two: Jennifer Ruth Green, who ran 4 years ago, and then Barb Regnitz, who is a Porter County commissioner. And my understanding from a lot of Lake County Republicans is that she's going to be the one to beat. So, again, I don't understand Mervan. I've invited him to come on my show several times. He won't come on because he doesn't want to take calls. All right.
Right.
I mean, look, you know what? You need to face the music, Frank. And I think one of the things that he also is afraid of is that I'm going to ask him, my very first question is going to be, why didn't you stand for that little kid with cancer? And number two, right, why are you so beholden to the National Democratic Party? The National Democratic Party doesn't represent the values of Northwest Indiana. It just doesn't.
They don't. And the fact is, these politicians, they have egos as big as the cars that they drive. Marvan has been in there 2 terms, so now he's going to get insurance for him and his family for the rest of his life. So
3 terms.
You got to have 3 terms?
Yeah, this is his 3rd term. Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, after 2 terms, you get health care for you and your family for life. All the perks. So, and as far as McDermott, at least McDermott has some sort of, he would have stood no matter what. I guarantee you he would have stood for that kid. And
he said when he was on with me that he not only would have stood for the kid, that he would have been standing on the table clapping for the kid. And I believe that. I know him quite well. There is no doubt in my mind that had Tom McDermott been in that position, that he would have been jumping up and down, screaming and hollering and clapping for that kid. This is a guy who who shaves his hair every single year to raise money for cancer, for kids with cancer. Okay, there's no question where he would be on that. And I will say this much: would he buck his party? In a heartbeat. All right, the fact that they gave Mervan millions of dollars to bail him out during the Jennifer Ruth Green contest. If it were Tom McDermott, he'd be like, okay, thanks a lot. Now I'm doing what I want to do. There's no question in my mind.
I'd like to see Tom McDermott run again, but I don't know, because that Green, as far as I'm concerned, she's a plant. She's a plant for the Democratic Party. That's how I look at her. And then McDermott, he's not going to run on a Republican ticket. He just wouldn't do that, because if he loses, he's not. I don't know about him being the mayor again. But I think
he could stay as mayor. He could stay as mayor, but there's no chance that he's going to run as a Republican. No.
Okay, but what I'm saying though is, you got to get. I think the field is going to get a little crowded if that guy from Lowell decides to run. Again.
I don't think Randy Niemeyer is going to run. I don't think Randy's going to run. I think he's going to support Barb Regnitz. And again, I know nothing about this woman. I only got her name yesterday. I looked her up. I saw that she's a Porter County commissioner. I saw that she does extremely well politically, as far as her, her election to office. She seems to be very popular. She seems to be very well liked. I'm told that she's got tremendous support for her run. And that she's going to be. A lot of people think she's going to be the candidate, but a lot of people also thought that when Jennifer Ruth Green ran, that the former mayor of LaPorte, I forget her name now, that she was going to be the candidate. She was young, she was attractive, she had done a good job as mayor of LaPorte, and she got smoked by Jennifer Ruth Green. So you never know how people are going to vote in primaries either.
Well, I'd like to see McDermott run, but he's going to have to answer why the debt is so high in Hammond and stuff, and I don't think he wants to do that. So it might just be these 2 people, but anybody but Marvan. I would vote for a gorilla before I'd vote for Marvan. Marvan has to go.
Well, let me ask you a question, Rick. Let me ask you a question. If Mervan tomorrow pivoted and said, "Look, I'm going to change my views on things. I'm going to come out and I'm going to be my own man. I'm going to represent the will of my constituents, and I'm going to clearly support certain things. I'm going to be bipartisan when it's necessary. I'm going to take a stand on banning men and women's sports. I'm going to, apologize to the kid with cancer. I'm going to do a whole bunch of things to right the boat." Would you reconsider your support?
No, because he's only saying it because it's an election year.
Okay.
These people will tell you that Santa Claus is real. I mean, I don't believe the politicians. And I certainly don't believe the Democrats. And no, I would not vote for Marvan if he said he was going to find a cure for cancer. I wouldn't do it because it's just smoke and mirrors.
Real fast, it is 7 a.m. in the Calumet area. You're listening to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. Sorry about that. Had to give the station identification. Well, it remains to be seen. Again, I think he's going to have quite a challenge. I think he's got two declared candidates on the Republican side that are going to be quite a challenge. And I mentioned before there's a lot of grumblings that I hear from local Democrats. So it just depends on how hard they're going to support him. And that'll be an interesting 2026, that's for sure. Hey, Rick, thanks so much for calling.
Marvan's got to go. And I mean, there's not a debate. It's a fact. He has to go.
All right. Thanks so much. 845-1100 is the number, and we've got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, will you tell your listeners that you were wrong in reference to Tom McDermott?
About what?
Well, I received a phone call reminding me of a Tom McDermott statement where he boldly and loudly proclaimed, "I'm going to be a soldier for Nancy Pelosi."
Oh, I remember that. Absolutely. And I think that was a big mistake of his. And I think that cost him votes when he ran for Congress. I think that was a huge mistake. I agree with you.
So how do you tell your listeners on the morning of 29 October in the year of our Lord 2025 that you don't think he would fall in line and just do what his handlers tell him to do? If he says to everybody, "I'm going to be a soldier for Nancy Pelosi."
I will say this much. I have known Tom for a long time, and I also know that he admits a lot of times when he says things that he's wrong on, and he's actually admitted that was a big mistake. You don't hear that from a lot of politicians, and probably one of the things that keeps Mervan popular, or keeps McDermott popular, unlike Mervan, is that McDermott will admit that he makes mistakes. Now, he made some mistakes recently. His comment about ICE agents being clowns, being in law enforcement, I think was a huge mistake. But again, I'm not going to defend Tom McDermott. I'm not going to be his spokesperson. He can do that himself. What my point is that I think he's more likely to go into Congress and do what he believes is the thing that his local constituents want than some other people. I think the problem with Frank Mervan is a really nice guy personally. He is. His entire family, very nice people. And I think that Mervan, unfortunately, has found himself in a predicament where he's having to do the bidding of the National Democratic Party over and above the views of his own constituents. And I think that's been a problem for him. I just do. Again, I don't dislike the guy. I like the guy. I'm trying, if anything, I keep on trying to point out to him that you need to buck the party influences and represent Northwest Indiana, because those are the only people that count. When you get elected to office, if you run for Congress, if you run for any position, your job is to represent the people that elected you and the people that didn't elect you. You have to represent the people that you represent. And unfortunately, some of his views, I don't think that Northwest Indiana is any different than the rest of the United States when it comes to men and women's sports. I don't think that Northwest Indiana is any different than any place else in the United States, that when a kid with cancer is being cheered, that you're going to stand up and cheer for him. To me, those are things that are not negotiable. And I think Frank has a lot of explaining to do. And unfortunately, the time is running out. And if he doesn't do it soon, I think he's going to find himself in a real predicament. I think that there are a lot of voters in Northwest Indiana who are questioning where Mervan is at. He says he's bipartisan, but his votes show otherwise. And I just think that at the end of the day, he has got to do some real introspection and look at where he stands with voters in Northwest Indiana. And don't drink the Kool-Aid, and don't believe that the 40 or 50 people that basically post on anything and everything that he puts on Facebook, that those are his constituents. Because those 40 or 50 people, I can name them off. I know them. And some of those people are just political hacks that hang around him and, oh, you're doing great, you're doing great. You need to look at everybody else. You need to look where everybody else is standing.
Tom, Mervan might be a nice guy. The world is filled with nice guys. We don't need nice guys anymore. We need men that will stand up for something. And with that mealy-mouthed string for a backbone, your first clue was when he said, I don't want to call them illegals. They're undocumented. That's number one. Not standing for the kid is number two. Men and women's sports is number three. The list goes on and on. Get rid of Frank Mervan that takes care of Frank Mervan only instead of doing what's right. But
hey, can I ask you a quick aside? You're a smart guy, so you have a lot of answers. Tell me why I have a bottle of water, just a regular bottle of water, and every time I take a drink from it, I have a tendency to shake it first. Why? It's water. Why am I shaking the water bottle?
Because there's sediments in the bottle of that when they manufactured it.
Yeah, you might be right. I don't know. Yeah, I'm listening to you, but I went to take a drink of water since you were talking, and it dawned on me that every time I grab this water bottle, I flip it over like there's nothing in it. It's just water. There's no flavor. Oh, well. Look, you have some very valid points. And again, let me ask you this. If Frank Mervan were to pivot on some of those key issues, would that be enough for him to regain your confidence?
No, because it goes back to exactly what you said about your friend, McDermott. You think about what you're going to say and do before you put those things into action. That way you don't have to retract statements. That way you don't have to look back on your acts and go, hey, you know what, I apologize. Tom, we all make mistakes. But in matters this big, you think about what you're going to do and say before you do them. And both McDermott and Mervan don't have the common sense to do that. Mervan,
so who would you like to see run? Who would you like to see run?
I want to know more about the female that you've just mentioned. Include the spelling of her name, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull it up. Her name is, I'm looking for the spelling right now. She is out of Porter County. She's a county commissioner, and the name is spelled Regnitz, Barb Regnitz. And people, again, I found out about it yesterday when I saw that Jennifer Ruth Green was running. I called a friend of mine with the Lake County Republican Party and said, I see Jennifer Ruth Green is running again. And he said, yeah, but you're missing the bigger story. And I said, really? What's the bigger story? And he said, Tom, Barb Regnitz is running. And I said, who's she? And he said, and he told me about her. And he said, Tom, we really feel that she'd be a great candidate. And I just pulled her up in social media and news accounts, and she seems to be very popular. And his point is, she's popular in Porter County. She's popular in LaPorte County. A lot of Republicans in Lake County know her. And when the general public gets to know her, she's going to be a very formidable candidate. So we'll have to see. Hey, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
845-1100 is the number. We've got more callers, so let's take another call. Good morning. You're on the air.
As far as being able to vote for Frank if he changed his ways and changed his tune, in full disclosure, I grew up with Frank, grew up in the same neighborhood in Hessville with Frank, went to school with Frank, partied with Frank. I'm a card-holding United Steelworker. I probably voted for Frank the first time. I consider Frank a friend. I would never vote for Frank again. Under no circumstance would I vote for Frank again. As far as your position on if he didn't have the support of the National Democratic Party, if he'd be electable here in the 1st District, he may be. Frank doesn't have the balls to take the chance, though. He needs the money. He needs the support because he needs the longevity in his mind. And without it, he runs the risk of getting beat. Might be a slim chance here in the 1st District, but he still runs the risk of getting beat.
You know, it's interesting because you know him quite well. As you said, you grew up with him, grew up in the same neighborhood, so you know him very well. And I'm really surprised because I know him like you, and I'm surprised that he basically has found himself in this situation with the National Democratic Party. I mean, think about it for a minute.
He sold the soul.
Right, but think about it for a minute. Let's say that was you. Let's say you were the congressman, and they gave you all this money to bail you out, okay? And that was 4 years ago, by the way. The bailout was 4 years ago. It wasn't 2 years ago. It was 4 years ago. At what point does your loyalty wane, and do you say, you know what? They can't do anything to me. I mean, let's be honest with each other. The Democrats are not going to put anybody up against Frank Mervan, right? They're not. So why do you care if you're Frank Mervan what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and AOC and Bernie Sanders and you know that collection of characters that are running the Democratic Party? Why do you care? Why not say, hey, you know what? I did your bidding and now I'm doing what I want to do.
Let's look at Frank's portfolio today compared to when he came into office, and that'll answer your question. As far as Tom McDermott goes, again, it sounds like you're carrying his water, Tom.
I'm not meaning to.
He made it perfectly clear what his position was when he ran. He was going, and the exact quote was, I'm going to be a great foot soldier for Nancy Pelosi. He made that perfectly clear on these WJOB airwaves. So he did, and he's also told me that was one of the biggest mistakes that he could have said. But he was being honest. And that's he would be in the same position that Frank's in right now. Once he would have gotten in, he would have followed the same path as Frank. And
look, the only thing that I'm saying is what he said when he was on with me back in I think March, when
you could retract as much as you want. The fact of the matter,
no.
He spoke. Go ahead.
I'm just pointing out that look, when it came to the little boy with cancer, if you remember, McDermott came on with me and we talked about it, and I said, what do you think about it? And he said, look, if I had been a congressman, I would have been up on my feet clapping. And I made the comment and I said, no, I think I know you well enough. You'd probably been on the table. And he said, yeah, you're damn right. I would have been on the table with my hands over my head, clapping for that kid. And I know how he is when it comes to kids with cancer. That's my point. So I'll defend him on where he'd stand on kids for cancer. I'm not going to defend Tom McDermott on anything else, but I will say that I think that he would have. I don't care if he was Nancy Pelosi's personal aide. When it came to a kid for cancer, Tom McDermott would have stood up. That's my whole point. That's the only thing that I'll defend him on.
One final point about as it relates to the government shutdown.
Yes.
About two and a half weeks ago, President Trump declared that he was going to try to find some extra funds to make payment on military and law enforcement, I believe. That was 2.5 weeks ago.
Right.
2 weeks ago, the owner of the radio station, Delo, came on and said, Frank Mervan is working on a plan to get some money for the military and law enforcement. So this just goes to show how the media tries to manipulate stories and twist it to look in their favor. So with that being said, clearly this is going to be your last show on WJOB because you're going in so deep on Frank Mervan.
No,
can we expect you on
no.
WLTH? Are you going to be on WLTH at some point when D'Lo fires you for going in so deep on Mervan today?
No, I don't think he's going to do that. But I will say this: where Jed was coming from was Mervan posted something, and I think Jed was reading the post where Mervan said he was going to work to try and find money for law enforcement and for the military, and so that's what he read that post. Look again
after Trump had already announced something was in the works.
Yeah, and let's put it this way: at the end of the day, we have the biggest train wreck in the history of mankind over this issue of the continuing resolution. Okay,
how has it affected you from day to day?
Has it affected me? It hasn't. It hasn't affected me, but it does affect an awful lot of people.
It hasn't affected me either. That's kind of weird.
But it's affected a lot of people, and it is affecting a lot of people. And there are a lot of good government employees. There are a lot of individuals who, the air traffic controllers, for example, TSA agents. There's plenty of people that are going without a paycheck right now. And I think the first thing that should happen is they ought to pass a law that says that if there is an impasse on the budget, the first people who lose their paychecks are members of Congress, Senate and House members, Congress. Democrat and Republicans. They should not be getting their pay while we're at this impasse. And to me, that's absolutely wrong. Take the money from the people who caused the problem. So does Chuck Schumer care? Because he doesn't. He's still getting his paycheck. He's getting his check, and Nancy Pelosi's getting her check, although she probably could care less because her husband's the smartest investor in history. But I mean, the first thing that should happen is they should take away the pay of Congress during a budget impasse. Hey, with that, we're going to move on.
Right on. Okay, I'll let you go. See you.
All right, take care. 845-1100, got another caller. We'll take that caller, and then we'll probably go to a break. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Oh, great. You have the most efficient show on WJOB, and I really want to commend your producer. It's really efficient, really to the point, no unnecessary comments involved, very efficient. Even when you were in Florida, I'll tell you the truth, the Florida programming is just as good, if not better, than when people are in studio, and that's an honest-to-God opinion to that fact. But
well, Lynette is great. Lynette, let's stop and give Lynette some very deserved credit. She does a great job.
Thank you so much.
She really
appreciate that.
Very, very good job and holds things together. So I appreciate your comments, and I think she does too. Go ahead.
And sir, I agree with you on this subject here, but I do appreciate the critical thinking this morning because we've lost that. And it's proven even in high schools where children today, and I'm not calling your callers children, but in general, they've lost the ability to have critical thinking. There's a lot of emotion involved in their thinking. It's one of the reasons that I have a problem with a lot of media today is a lot of the emotional talk. People say that's good radio. Well, some people say Jerry Springer was good. It's a good food fight. You're arguing, you're getting mad at each other, but you didn't accomplish a lick of anything. But I appreciate.
Can I just interrupt you for a second? There was one show that I always wanted to sneak into. I wanted to wear a disguise or sit way back in the audience where they didn't show me, but I always wanted to go to a Jerry Springer show when he was in Chicago, and I never did.
Mm-hmm. I actually have a niece that actually did attend one of the shows. But, I appreciate the fact that the one gentleman earlier in the morning brought up the voting record. Because so many people will say this is really the conservative Democrat, this is the liberal Democrat, this is the conservative Republican, but they never look at the voting record. The voting record is what counts. I heard it and in fairness, a lot of Republicans, they blame Mayor Tom, they blame our Congressman Frank, But a lot of local Republicans, they didn't pay attention to voting records either when they crossed the aisle and they got the candidate. Now, these are Republicans who got this candidate in office. I hope those Republicans, because the one gentleman's good at picking up a one sentence that Mayor Tom might have said, and he disagrees with it, and I disagree with the statement too, but then he'll hold him accountable for the rest of his life based on one statement that is totally incorrect. The man said it was a mistake. He's wrong, and I'll say it again. Mayor Tom, despite with all the rhetoric on this radio, I do believe he is a pro-law enforcement mayor from the city of Hammond, despite the fact that he was smoking weed in a state whereby it was legal. Case in point, I'm a baby boomer just like you. You probably went to, maybe you did, maybe you did, when we were underage and we couldn't drink, and when Wisconsin had a lower alcohol level to be legal, I did it. Yeah, I did it. So therefore, did I break
Come on,
the
you used to
law
go.
in
You used to
India?
go to Illinois. You used to go to Illinois because it was 19.
Correct. In Illinois, correct. So am I a criminal in Indiana? See, this is the problem, Tom, where I have with people who just, it's like they want to fight over this one thing that they may disagree with on a candidate. You see what I'm saying? And this is why this is why I have a lot of problem with a lot of, I'll tell you the truth, no offense to Chuck, a lot of you libertarians. You have great ideas, great thoughts, you're always intellectual, but you never get elected to nothing. And the local Republicans are starting to annoy me because they're doing the same thing. They do the same thing. They preach good, but they win nothing.
Well, let me ask you a question. You know, you just hit on one of the reasons why I think it's so hard to get good people to run for office. Okay, so you know we both complimented Lynette this morning. All right, she's young. In a few years, do you think that you could actually say to Lynette, "Hey, Lynette, you ought to run for office"?
No.
Because the problem is that if she says one wrong thing, if she does one wrong thing, people will hold it against her for the rest of her life. And you're right about that. You have politicians, you have elected officials in Northwest Indiana, and I know 90+% of them, okay? And some of them I know really, really well. And a lot of them are disillusioned because anything and everything they do, they get blamed. All right? They get blamed for it no matter what the case is. People say things. People attack them. They attack them personally. They're human beings. They do make mistakes, okay?
Right.
And the thing is that, you know what? My point always is, well, if you think you can do so much better, then you run, okay?
Yeah.
And you get elected. And right away it's like, well, no, nobody's going to elect me. Well, then, you know what? Maybe loosen up a little bit. Lighten up on some of these people because they do make mistakes. Politicians and especially elected officials are prone to make mistakes just like everybody else. And you know what? I agree with you. You have to forgive. You have to forgive what people do.
I look at the pattern. You know what I'm saying, Tom? I mean, if you lie to me and you lie to me and you lie, you know, at some point I'm gonna. Hey, this isn't a good guy or good gal. I got it.
Right.
But my point is, you can't even come on these airways and say, look, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. But it's my opinion when Frank Mervan was the North Township trustee. He did an excellent job. That does not mean I support him for the rest of his life in every political endeavor. As a matter of fact, I said at the time, you local Democrats, I go by the Ronald Reagan philosophy. You select and you support the most conservative Republican that can get elected. It was my question at the time to the Republicans. If you're gonna switch sides and go for the Democrat, why did you not at least go for the most conservative Democrat if you already crossed the line? And they won't answer that question. So my point is, you guys did not only today you're feeling you selected the wrong candidate. My question is, initially, did you select the most conservative Democrat as a Democrat? And if you were honest with yourself, you would say no. So all this back and forth, and you're right, Mayor Tom's not ever. Why would the party, if they already know I got a yes man, like you stated, why would I want to switch? That's a yes vote, man. It's ridiculous.
They're not gonna upset the apple cart. It's just not gonna happen. Hey, thanks so much for calling. We've got other callers holding. Folks, stay on hold. We're gonna be right back. We're gonna take a quick commercial break. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. Again, just stay on hold. We'll be right back.